I have worked retail management for 11 years. I have seen shoplifters, scammers, coupon fraudsters, and people who genuinely believed that screaming louder than everyone else in the building was a legally binding negotiation strategy. I thought I had encountered every variation of the difficult customer that the universe could produce. I was wrong. Nothing in my 11 years of retail management could have prepared me for the woman I will call Karen, because that is genuinely her actual name, and I have no reason to protect it. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in late October, which should have been a quiet day. Tuesdays are usually quiet. The foot traffic is lower, the afternoon light comes in at a soft angle through the front windows, and my team is relaxed enough that we can actually breathe between transactions. I was in my office doing end-of-week inventory projections when my assistant manager, a young man named Derek, who has the patience of a saint and the expression of someone who has just watched a car crash in slow motion, knocked on my door and said, simply, "There's a situation at the service desk." I did not ask questions. When Derek uses the word situation with that particular flatness in his voice, questions only slow things down. I walked out onto the floor, and I saw her immediately. She was a woman in her late 50s, wearing a cream-colored blouse that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck, and she was holding a curling iron above the service desk counter the way a prosecuting attorney holds up evidence at trial. She was not yelling yet. She was in the stage I have come to recognize as pre-yell, where the jaw is tight and the nostrils are slightly flared and the person is still technically using their indoor voice, but only because they are building pressure. I introduced myself. I told her I was the store manager and that I was happy to help her. She set the curling iron down on the counter with a deliberate click and slid it toward me like she was making an opening move in chess. She told me she wanted a full refund. Cash, not store credit.
She was very specific about that. Cash.
I picked up the curling iron and looked at it. It was a model we did carry or had carried. A mid-range brand, nothing unusual about it. I looked at the tag. There was no tag. I looked for a receipt. She said she didn't have a receipt but that she had paid cash and therefore couldn't get a bank statement, which she delivered as though that were a perfectly logical reason why the absence of a receipt should matter. I asked her when she had purchased the item. She said 2 weeks ago. Asked if she had a loyalty card she might have used because purchases get automatically logged to the account even on cash transactions. She said she didn't believe in loyalty cards, and the way she said it made it sound like loyalty cards were a political movement she had chosen to oppose on principle. I told her I would need to look the item up in our system before I could process anything. I scanned the barcode on the bottom of the curling iron. The system pulled it up immediately. I looked at the screen. I looked at it for a moment longer than I needed to because something was already wrong, and I wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly before I said anything. The item was in our system, yes. But the last time that particular SKU had been sold from our location was 4 months ago. Not 2 weeks. For months. And, before I could say anything about that, I noticed something else. The base of the curling iron had a small sticker residue mark where a price tag had been removed. But the sticker residue was orange. Our price tags are white. They have always been white. We have never, in the history of our store, used orange price tags. She had not bought this curling iron from us. I kept my voice completely even. I am good at that. I told her I was having some trouble locating the transaction and asked if she could give me any additional details, like approximately what time of day she had come in, or who had helped her. She said she didn't remember, and that it wasn't her job to remember those things, and that it was, in fact, my job to find the transaction and process her refund. I told her that our system was showing that this item had last been sold from our store 4 months prior, and that I wanted to make sure we were looking at the right record. That was when she shifted into yell. She told me I was calling her a liar. I said I was doing no such thing, that I was simply trying to reconcile the information in our system. She told me that my system was wrong. I told her, still pleasantly, that our system tracked every single transaction in real time and had a very low margin for error. She told me that she was a loyal customer who had spent thousands of dollars in this store over the years, which was interesting, given that she had just told me she didn't believe in loyalty cards, meaning we had no record of any of those thousands of dollars, and that she deserved to be treated with respect. I agreed that she deserved respect. I told her I was treating her with respect. I asked her again, calmly, whether she had a receipt or any other documentation. She did not. She said the item was defective and she simply wanted her money back. I asked what defect she was experiencing. She said it didn't heat up properly. I said I would be happy to have one of our electronics associates test it. She said that wasn't necessary and that she just wanted the refund. I noticed that she had not actually plugged it in for me or demonstrated the defect in any way. I told her that store policy required either a receipt or a confirmed transaction in our system in order to process a cash refund. I said this as gently as I could. I also said that if she had purchased the item elsewhere, I would be happy to help her identify which retailer might be able to assist her, since the barcode was a universal product code that most stores would carry. She told me that she had bought it here and a story, and that if I did not give her the money, she was going to call corporate and have my job. I told her she was welcome to contact our corporate customer relations team and provided her with the phone number. She did not write it down. She told me that she would be filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. I told her that was also her right and that I hoped we could resolve things before it came to that. Then she leaned forward over the counter and said that if I did not hand her $47 in cash right now, she was going to make a scene that I would never forget for the rest of my professional life. I looked at her for a moment. I thought about 11 years of retail management. I thought about all the times I had absorbed anger that wasn't mine to absorb, all the times I had smoothed things over because it was easier, all the times I had quietly given refunds I had no obligation to give just to make someone stop yelling. I thought about my staff who were watching from various points around the floor with the careful, attentive stillness of people who are pretending very hard to be doing something else. I thought about Derek, who was standing 2 feet to my left and who deserved to work in an environment where the rules meant something. I told her I would not be processing the refund. I told her that the item did not appear to have been purchased at our store, that our policy required documented proof of purchase, and that I had done everything within my power to assist her. I told her that I was going to have to ask her to return the curling iron to the counter, as removing it from the store without purchase would constitute a problem I did not want to have to address. She picked up the curling iron. She put it in her handbag. She looked me dead in the eyes while she did it. I said her name. I said it clearly and without aggression. I said, "I need you to return that item to the counter." She said she was taking back what was hers. I said that without documentation, I could not verify that claim and that the item was store property until she could prove otherwise. She turned and walked toward the exit. I picked up the phone at the service desk and I called the police. I did it while she was still in the store, still walking, still about 30 feet from the door. I told the dispatcher, quietly, that I had a shoplifting situation in progress and gave them our address. The dispatcher told me an officer was nearby and would be there within a few minutes. She made it to the door. She pushed through it. She stood on the sidewalk outside for a moment, adjusting her bag, looking completely satisfied with herself. The cruiser pulled up 2 minutes later. I know because I had been watching the door. I walked outside with Derek, and with the security footage timestamp I had already pulled up on my tablet, I had been recording the relevant footage since the moment she put the curling iron in her bag, and I met the officer on the sidewalk. She was still there. She had not gotten into a car. She was on her phone, and from what I could hear, she was already telling someone on the other end about the disrespectful manager who had refused to help her. She saw the police car, and the expression on her face shifted. It went from satisfied to confused to something that was trying very hard to become outraged but couldn't quite get there. The officer was professional and calm. He asked both of us for our counts. I showed him the security footage on the tablet. I showed him the transaction log showing that the item had not been sold from our store in 4 months. I showed him the image of the orange sticker residue on the base of the curling iron, which I had photographed with my phone before Shed put it in her bag. He examined the curling iron, which she had removed from her bag when he asked her to, and confirmed the residue. She told him that she had bought it here 2 weeks ago. He asked for documentation. She said Shed paid cash. He pointed out that the store's records did not support that account. She told him their records were wrong. He asked her where the orange sticker residue had come from, if she had bought it here. She said she didn't know what he was talking about. He showed her. She said it must have been there when she bought it. He asked why an item purchased at a store that used white tags would have residue from an orange tag when it was supposedly brand new. She said she didn't know. He was very patient. He gave her every opportunity to produce any piece of evidence whatsoever that she had purchased that item from us or from anywhere. A credit card statement, a picture, a text message to a friend mentioning the purchase. Anything. She had nothing. He wrote her a citation for retail theft. She did not take it gracefully. She told him this was a violation of her rights. He explained, quietly, that retail theft is a misdemeanor under state law and outlined what that meant for her. She told him she was going to be reporting him. He gave her the number for the department's complaint line with the same energy I had given her the corporate customer service number, which is to say, completely without panic.
She left.
She got into a silver sedan parked half a block away, and she drove off. I stood on the sidewalk with Derek and the officer for a moment in the autumn afternoon light, and the officer looked at me and said, "You documented everything fast." I told him I had been doing this for 11 years. He nodded like that explained everything because it did. We went back inside. My team, every single one of them, had found reasons to be near the front of the store. Nobody was pretending to be doing something else anymore. Derek started a slow clap. I told him to stop it. He stopped, but he was grinning. I went back to my office and finished my inventory projections. My hands were completely steady. I want to note that because I think it matters. There had been a time earlier in my career when a confrontation like that would have left me shaking for an hour, replaying every word ID said, wondering if ID been too firm, too cold, too something. I did not shake. I sat down, I opened my spreadsheet, and I continued working because I had done exactly what I was supposed to do. The citation was the beginning of a small paper trail. I was subsequently contacted by a detective who told me they had identified 2 other retailers in the area who had experienced similar incidents involving a woman matching the description, using similar tactics, with items that appeared to have been purchased elsewhere. The orange sticker residue turned out to be traceable to a specific discount liquidation store across town that used orange tags. It appeared that she had been buying items there at steep discounts and then attempting to return them to full-price retailers for retail value cash refunds, pocketing the difference. It's not a new scheme. It's older than I am. But she had apparently been running it successfully enough in other locations that she had gotten comfortable. I don't know exactly what happened to her after that. That part of the story belongs to a process that moves without me. What I do know is that the citation was real, the footage was preserved, and my cooperation with the detective's inquiry was complete and documented. What I know on a more personal level is this. There is a version of that Tuesday where I gave her $47 just to make the yelling stop. I have done that before. Not often and not without it costing me something, but I have done it. And in that version of that Tuesday, she would have left satisfied, and she would have gone to the next store and done it again, and the store after that, and no one would have accumulated enough evidence to see the pattern. The version that actually happened cost me about 20 minutes and a conversation with a police officer in the parking lot. It is the better version. I do not doubt that even a little. I tell this story sometimes when I'm training new managers, particularly new managers who are nervous about confrontation, who have been told their whole lives that the customer is always right and that keeping the peace is the highest possible professional virtue. I tell them that keeping the peace is not the same thing as letting people take things that don't belong to them. I tell them that documentation is not aggression. I tell them that saying no, clearly and consistently and with evidence behind it, is not a violation of anyone's dignity. And I tell them that if you handle it right, sometimes a police car shows up and does the rest of the work for you. That part usually gets a laugh. It should. It's the part of the story that I still find genuinely satisfying every single time I tell it, standing in the autumn light on a Tuesday afternoon, watching someone learn, the hard way, that the service desk is not where you go to collect money for things you never bought.